Welcome back to Sword of the Month Club. I'm your host Justin, and today we're really excited to be doing a full review after a full month of testing Doragonsouru. Who is Doragonsouru? I'm really glad that you asked, but before we get to that, let's talk about how the channel works. Each Wednesday of the month, we're going to upload a fresh video featuring the Sword of the Month, but the first Wednesday of each month, that starts off with a box. Weeks 2 and 3 will be all about our experience using the sword during that week, while the final Wednesday of the month will be all about our complete and full review after a month-long of tests, and ranking the sword within the Sword of the Month Club collection. But for now, let's get back to the box. This month's blade is Doragonsouru, which is the club name for the Doragonsouru Katana from Romance of Men, which was graciously provided to us for our review. As of the posting of this video, it retails on the Romance of Men website for $144. Let's check it out. Let's start with the saya. The blade seats well and has good retention. There is only the slightest rattle, and it requires significant force while shaking to cause, which is great. The koiguchi, which is the mouth of the saya into which the blade is inserted, is simple and marries up with the habaki cleanly. The kurikata, which is the tie point on the saya, sits 10 centimeters from the koiguchi, which is pretty standard. There are shitodome present, which have a brass color to them, which is maybe an odd choice given that all of the suka hardware that you can see while the sword is sheathed are silver colored. The shitodome are not secured into the kurikata, which is easy enough to fix with a tiny dab of glue if that's your preference. If you want them, glue them. If not, they're easily removable. It's a nice, easy customization at home from Romance of Men here, and I like having that freedom to make that decision for myself. The sageo, which is the tying cord, arrives tied in a ronin musubi, or swordsman knot. The sageo may actually be the same cord that's used in the ito, which is something I appreciate here. In many cases, the ito and sageo come from different stock, but the manufacturer attempts to color match them, which almost never works out. Using the same cord is a good plus. The last thing I'll point out here is that there is no kojiri or ornamental piece on the blunt end of the saya. That is totally reasonable given the $206 price point that this katana normally sits at, and the absence of a kojiri is pretty standard until you start reaching much higher prices. The suka appears to follow a hachi profile, slightly tapered, not just a straight cylinder. The ito wrap is good and tight with great symmetry. What is potentially the most exciting aspect of the ito is the somewhat unique wrap featuring a twisted wrap in the upper 2/3 of the suka, while the lower third nearest the fuchi features a flat portion, which some might call a battle wrap. This isn't quite what I think should be termed a katata maki, as that would be for when the flat portion is centered, with the hinari maki diamond sections being both above and below the flat wrap section. The unique style of this wrap is a really nice point of interest for this katana, and I am here for it. Beneath the wrap, the samagawa might be a synthetic ray skin. For some, this might either be a selling point by avoiding animal products, or a point of contention because it's non-traditional. In my experience, there hasn't been a significant enough performance difference between a katana with synthetic ray skin to warrant a major discussion. However, this may matter greatly to some folks. Ultimately, I can't tell 100% at the moment if this is synthetic or not, so take it with a grain of salt. The kashira, which is the pommel cap, features a woven basket-type design. I really like the satin finish. There are some molding lines here on the casting, but nothing egregious. The fit is tightly held into the tsuka, and I like the contrast with the dark-colored ito. The Manuki are dragons, and maybe a bit small for my taste. They are metallic black and slightly offset from one another. The Fuchi features the same style basket woven design as the Kashira, with the same satin silvery finish. The Suka is all held together by a pair of bamboo makugi. I've not attempted to remove them so far, but I will attempt a full disassembly before our final review. The seppa are brass, with a bright finish and contrast nicely with the suba. The suba features a dragon interwoven with what appears to be a viper. It's a nice design, and when you consider that Kashira and Fuchi both feature a woven design, it kind of makes sense. The mimi, which is the thickness of the suba, is 4.3 millimeters. If I was going to make any specific comments related to the suba here, I might have preferred it to have the same type of finish as the other fittings rather than this bright finish, but because personally I like the satin look. The habaki is simple, unadorned brass. It marries up with the blade very well and pairs with the saya to provide good retention without being overly aggressive. This blade is shockingly sharp and easily the sharpest blade I've taken out of the box. It features a single bowhai that's extremely symmetrical on both sides. The groove terminates beneath the habaki, and I'll be expecting the termination more closely when I get to disassembly later this month. The yokote, which is the line where the edge grind meets the point grind, is clean and symmetrical. In fact, all of the grinds are excellent. The kisaki is crisp and well executed. The sori, or curvature of the blade, measures at 1.6 centimeters, which is very standard for modern katana reproductions. The kasane, or spine thickness, is 7.4 millimeters, which is getting on the thicker side of the normal range. It means it should easily have enough mass to cut extremely well. The motohaba, or blade width at the base, measures 31.8 millimeters, and the sakihaba, or width near the kasaki, comes in at 22.6 millimeters. That's a pretty good taper and should lend itself to a very agile blade despite the thicker kasane. The hamon appears to be a genuine Madare pattern, wavy and organic. Their website features a very in-depth understanding of their heat treating process and how the hamon is formed. As for the mei, I haven't been able to access the nakago or tang portion of the katana hidden beneath the grip yet, and I'll be visiting that at the end of the month when I've had a chance to remove the makugi. The blade is forged from T10 steel, which is a great high-carbon steel well known for strength and edge retention. The balance is 14 centimeters from the suba, making the balance slightly favor the cut. The blade is 72.4 centimeters with an overall length of 99.7 centimeters. The weight is 965 grams, with the saya adding an additional 220 grams, bringing the total combined weight up to 1,162 grams. The last thing I'd like to mention here is that there is absolutely no rattle in the construction. The double makugi construction and tight ito make it an extremely solid and overall built to last sword for a long time. During our second week testing Dragon Soul, we put it through a series of baseline test cuts with water bottles. Let's check those out now. After our first week of test cutting, we had a few observations that we felt were noteworthy. Everything remains locked in tight. The Ito wrap has had no discernible changes, and the double Makugi pin assembly has ensured everything remains exactly as originally assembled. The edge shows no changes whatsoever and is still astonishingly sharp. It feels important to note that the retention in the saya has diminished very significantly. In week 3, we added a few more water bottles, but we added some additional cutting targets as well with some rolled cardboard and some foam pool noodles. Let's check those out. Let's start with handling. Dragon Soul, for the most part, feels excellent in the hand. The Ito wrap has shown no signs of loosening over the past month, but the more I put hands on it, the less I seem to like this flat wrap section at the base of the suka. And speaking of the suka, it has proven all but impossible to remove the twin Makugi pins that hold the whole assembly together. I gave it a valiant effort, folks, but I'm afraid that if I force it loose, I may not be able to reassemble it as tight as it is right now. Edge retention was excellent over the past month of use. The only blemishes on the blade come from some very minor staining from the cutting targets, but it is essentially unavoidable, so it has nothing to do with the durability of the blade. In no way is this a criticism of Romance of Men or the Doragonsouru katana. The last thing worth noting is that Dragon Soul's retention in the saya has diminished extremely over the past month. Like most swords, the retention in the scabbard or saya diminishes after use, which is totally normal. The issue is that our Doragonsouru katana arrived pretty much with the ideal retention from the onset. What this has meant in practice is that our retention is moving towards an unsafe level for practicing Aido. The good news here is that I don't, and if I wanted to start, I have other options available to practice with. While the retention in the saya has been low, I'm extremely happy to report that the Doragonsouru katana from Romance of Men is nimble and cuts like a beast of a blade. So, who is a katana like Doragonsouru from Romance of Men for? If you're looking for an entry-level, budget-friendly katana that's ready for structured cutting With good durability, great differential hardening, but you want something slightly more interesting than the basics, I think this is an excellent option. At $144, this katana is absolutely a steal. This is the portion of our final review video where we rank our new sword within the Sword of the Month Club collection. Dragonsoul, the katana from Romance of Men, truly is, dollar for dollar, the best budget cutting-ready sword that we've reviewed on the channel so far. However, comparing it to Wilhelm isn't necessarily a reasonable comparison to make, and side by side with Wakakage, it comes up just short. But it isn't exactly an equitable comparison either, as Wakakage costs 50% more than Dragonsoul. For now, Dragonsoul is going to join the collection in the number 3 position. Our next unboxing video is right around the corner in the first week of January, and we're extremely excited to add the next sword to the collection, so be sure that you stab those like and subscribe buttons. And stay sharp out there.